Oh, yeah. Which clock should we be going by?
This one, I think. Yeah. Anyway. 36 seconds.
Okay. And I'll go ahead and...
Do the introduction?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I don't want to fuck anything up.
Yeah, so you can introduce the show and then welcome me, and then I'll introduce them in my intro.
10, 9, 8. Why am I doing this?
I'm wondering...
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to News. What News here on Q4 Radio's 1680 AM. I am host Darren Marshall here with the ever lovely and talented Rachel Blumstrom.
Hey!
Hi! What's up?
How are you
Happy
doing?
New Year!
Happy New Year!
It's been a crazy New Year, hasn't it?
It's already.
I know. Oh, by the way, we have some special guests coming in too.
Yeah, so today, a friend of mine, Ii-Epstein, and their friend Vitoria Herring with True Social Equity in Cannabis and Weed, the People. So they will be joining us. They've been...
I see what they did there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fun name. But I've been following their activist work for a while now, ever since, weed became legal here in Chicago.
Yeah.
So they're going to tell us about it, and I know they've got a lot going on right now.
Oh, and I've got plenty to talk to them about.
Oh, yeah, I mean...
I'm like, the whole politics of what's going on,
Yeah. And that's been there.
I'm not happy because I remember when they first decided to do it, what their promises were.
Yeah.
And
so that's been what their work has done. They also have done a documentary, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit. But other than that, I have some new plays coming up with the Quarantine Queens.
Woo!
So later this month, just want to plug it real quick, we will be doing 12th Night, and our director this time will be Sydney Hansen. And she's absolutely wonderful. If you've seen any of our stuff, she's done all of our fight choreography. And then we have a Black History Month special coming up. Very excited about. And then in March, we will be doing a big Henry VIII play. So it'll be another one kind of on the size of how we did Queen Lear.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, it'll be like incorporating, video and all sorts of other things.
Oh, that's cool.
And
that's
music,
cool.
Yeah. So
I'm so proud of you.
Yay, thanks. Yeah. Pretty lazy month in December, so I guess it's time to do something, right?
Yeah, I this whole thing with the COVID bounce back has gotten me lazier.
Yeah.
I was already lazy. I haven't done stand-up
I know.
in a year and a half now.
Are they opening back up?
There's stand-up places still going. It's just that I'm afraid to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And with this new strain going around, strain. Hey, what a segue into the. With this.
Yeah. I mean, strains of all sorts of things.
Yeah. With this new strain going on, we're on Twitter. What News is on Twitter, and I talk a lot to Chicago bars on Twitter. There's a gentleman who goes by the Twitter handle Chicago Bars, and they actually give you info about what's going on at bars and restaurants, and it actually goes to City Hall to their meetings when they're coming up with legislation and covers it too.
So what is everyone saying about, because now you officially have to show your vaccination card to go to a lot of places, right?
Well, the point I made to him today is this. At this point in time, during the pandemic, if you are going into a restaurant without a mask, the reason is not because the food is good or because you like the service. The reason why you're going into the restaurant is just to be a jerk and to make a point.
Yes. Did you see that video of these guys who decided?
Cheesecake Factory?
Oh no, Burger King.
Oh, it's the same group.
Yeah. Oh, was it the same group?
Same group?
Well,
yeah.
Turns out one of the guys at Burger King that they were filming, they have actual footage of him from the January 6th insurrection last year.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and
not a surprise.
Cheesecake Factory announced that they dropped the charges, and they're calling this a success.
Oh my
God!
God!
They're saying, "Oh, this gives us free reign to do this wherever we want." No.
One of the funniest things is when that cop was talking to him, and the guy's like, "But I have a reservation," and he's like, "A reservation is not a right. Like now it's canceled." Like,
yeah, it's like
I have a reservation that trumps this mandate.
Yeah. Oh, and Trump's restaurant. They're freaking out about the restaurant in Trump Tower.
Oh yeah, because they follow the rules.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, but he's our guy. Why are you doing this to us? Ah!
Yeah, because he doesn't care about you.
Yeah.
Like, how many different ways does he need to tell you that? Like, they literally are now...
It's not you, it's him.
Yeah. Well, and now, talking about the strain, they are having people go back to work if they are not showing symptoms. They're sending nurses back to work. They can test positive for COVID, but if they don't have symptoms, they want them to go back to work. So I guess capitalism finally trumped the CDC.
Yeah, which, I'm totally disappointed by that.
Yeah, I mean, and
10
now,
days
like,
to 5 days,
I mean, come on, we already know that that's not enough time. And here's the worst part, though, if you think about it, because of all these people getting sick, and we have these comorbidity things, like people are going to be disabled forever from getting sick from some of these. Some of these people are just never going to be able to return to the workforce. There are people right now who cannot, and I don't know what people are thinking, but the country's going to have to support these people. So I suggest if you would like support from the country, you better get vaccinated, because otherwise your comorbidity could be denied.
They're actually turning away people who need essential surgery.
Yeah.
Because there's no hospital beds because of all these idiots, COVID-idiots.
Yeah. And I'm surprised that I have this great idea on how to solve the problem in, like, not enough beds. And that is limit a percentage of beds specifically for COVID patients or specifically for unvaccinated COVID patients and make them wait on each other. Mm-hmm. So that way we can reserve a certain amount of beds for everything else.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to do it. I mean, I would leave one bed in a hospital for an unvaccinated person, but, I mean, maybe they can work out like 10% or 50% or whatever they need to do, but we've got to start reserving beds for other people.
It kind of is common sense, They actually had, I just heard about a case where somebody needed transplant surgery, but they had COVID themselves and couldn't get it.
Oh, damn.
I know.
Well, they must have been vaccinated, though, because you won't be on the transplant list if you don't get vaccinated.
Yeah.
Greg mentioned that they're actually having multi-generational issues now, too. I don't know too much about that, but I'm assuming, I can see how it gets in there and would maybe make your offspring sick. I don't know. I have to look more into it, or maybe you can tell me a little more, Greg. But I just know that we're like, economy-wise, long-term, people are going to be sick for a long time.
Biden is not hurting the economy. The only thing hurting the economy right now is the people that refuse to get vaccinated, the people trying to convince people not to get vaccinated. They're the ones that are hurting the economy. And going back to the whole COVID thing that we were just talking about, most they did a study and reasonably found that the majority of the people that are unvaccinated that are dying happen to also be Trump supporters, Republicans, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Well,
they want their constituents to come out and vote for them, but they're killing off their constituents.
yeah, well, that's okay because QAnon is growing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, I've been keeping track. It was 10% months ago, and then it was 15% recently.
Yeah.
And now there's estimate between 15 to 20% of the population believe in at least a few of the core tenets or beliefs of QAnon. Thank you. I was like, what am I talking about? I'm in the middle of my own sentence and I forgot the end of it.
And see, it is almost like its own virus because...
Oh, yeah. Well, isn't he supposedly, don't people think he was like, which right-hand man? Flynn?
Yeah.
Is that who they thought Q was for a while?
Yeah.
Or I don't know.
It turned
one
out
of
to be
those
some
people
schmuck.
who are...
It turned out to be some schmuck who's regretting he ever did it, but...
I doubt it. Well, I don't know, maybe, because he has been kind of like testing them, like, let's see if these morons will go and wait for JFK Jr. to come back to life and become a Republican Trump supporter. Like, what? Moron. And then they were like, well, everybody messed it up because they came and watched. That was just for us. Like, you advertised it. Like, all of your stupid moron arguments on why things are or are not happening are just ridiculous. 15 to 20%. That's right, y'all.
Going to the QAnon and people who like to spread lies, the January 6th committee announced...
The big lie.
The big lie. The January 6th committee just announced that they want to interview Sean Hannity.
Well, I'm certain he probably helped coordinate too. And, they've been using a lot of coded language. Yeah. So I am certain that there are at least Sean Hannity for sure is using coded language to probably disseminate information. I don't know if we'll ever get that out of there, but if they're interviewing him, I think that's a good sign. Mm-hmm. And they're just like circling in down this drain.
Yeah. People are still upset about Merrick Garland, and I'm like, it took Watergate 2 to 3 years. This is a lot bigger than Watergate. This is huge.
Well, absolutely, because it involves civilians who got violent and tried to overthrow the government.
Civilians, the media, politicians, and it's not just that day or what happened before. This is still going on. That is why there's still a lot to do. Because let me tell you, it's going to be difficult. People don't realize how difficult this is going to be to stop this.
I feel like it's kind of crazy how difficult it is, though, since we literally watched it happen. Yeah. And then we have to, explain to people cause and effect over and over again. They can't even grasp the fundamentals of, this person said this, then the other person did what they said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's it. That's what it is.
We have our guests here.
Yes, welcome.
Ladies, please take a seat in front of the mics. Hello.
Right here is good.
Smiley faces on.
Yeah, welcome.
Hello.
Okay.
I know y'all been really busy.
Whew. Yes, we have.
There was a protest you guys were. Miss Rachel, please do the introduction.
Oh, here. Yes. So here we have Ii-Epstein and Vitoria Herring.
Hello.
So welcome to the studio.
Hello. Thanks for having us, everyone. We're glad to be here.
Yeah.
Tired and energized at the same time.
Yeah, so y'all already were doing some work this morning.
Always.
Yes, we had a rally this morning in conjunction with another organization, ECCSC, in regards to the hemp bill that's out right now, that's up for renewal, if you will, about the 2018 Farm Bill, where they are putting more restrictions upon the ex-cons and people that have records so that they don't have access to enter within the industry.
Okay, well, let's just take back a second because that's crazy.
Because, I wanted to start off by saying, well, first of all, welcome, and second of all, I remember back in the day when they first introduced the idea of having cannabis here in Illinois, that they were going to open it up to various people, and and I think that kind of didn't happen.
Well, I just wanted to say real quick, and for some of the people who are just tuning in, that that Anna Rose and Vitoria are both with True Social Equity in Cannabis and Weed the People. Yeah?
Right.
So maybe you can just tell us a little bit about what that is and how it got started, and then we can start tearing apart the policies.
Because there's so much to tear apart.
Yeah.
I applied for a dispensary license with my wife and three badass black women from the South Side because, they said they wanted to provide generational wealth to the black and brown community. And, I'm a healer, so I want to help in any way I can. I also run a theater company, so that's part of giving back to the community that I've done for the last 15 plus years. But
that's just who you are. That's who you and your wife are.
Just applied for a license, put all of our savings into it, wanting to get into this legal industry to start our family. Finally.
I remember you even told me you were looking to hire disabled veterans and asked me if I might be interested since I'm one of those.
Yeah,
I know somebody. We live in a building with somebody that might be interested in that too.
I mean, everyone needs freaking jobs in this industry, but the problem is there's no licenses. So anyway, we apply. We find out that they allowed 21 companies out of the 900 to receive the 75 licenses in a lottery. They were going to do a lottery, and we were like, "Fuck that! That's horrible. This is not okay." Oh, sorry. What's that?
Yeah,
Apologies.
it's the radio. Like primetime TV allowable.
Yeah. I've been hanging out with a lot of formerly incarcerated people. So we're all about that. So when that happened, we went out to the streets and started doing, making our voice heard, saying, no, this is not okay. So I was really angry, and I needed a place to express my anger, but also put out there, all of the different perspectives of what was happening. Because there's a lot of avenues, a lot of stuff that's going on, and it's not just connected to cannabis. I mean, personally, I think cannabis is connected to everything. If cannabis could be free and the people could be free to have cannabis, the world would be peace and earth. Good vibes. So I started documenting, and then it's a fucking year later, still I'm sorry.
It happened. I was and it's always so hard when you already talk about something a lot and it's just worked its way to the vocabulary.
Yeah.
When people want me to tell sea stories, I'm like, I'm cussing. That's how you speak in sailor. I just don't know how to tell.
You must have been in the Navy. I was in the Navy as well.
Yeah, you don't know how to tell stories without it, right?
Totally
And I met this amazing freaking queen. God.
We'll get it.
I met this queen here in Vitoria during all the protesting, and we've been partners in all of this for many months now. And Weed the People came about because...
Well, we wanted to make sure that all the voices were being heard within this culture. It's the culture that created the industry, and unfortunately, it's the culture that's being left out. At the people that have been directly affected by the war on drugs, and nobody really wants to dive into the fact that the people that have really been affected are the ones that are still being left out, that are still being targeted, that are still being locked up, that are still don't have any community money within our community, still don't have any resources, and we're still going through more oppression, and it's just modern day slavery.
Yeah, I was wondering, what if we just let everybody out who has weed charges and then put them in the top of the list should they want to apply for the a license. Like,
What if we did the right thing?
what if we did that?
I mean, well, ultimately, that was the whole thought and the idea about this whole social equity. But as we look 2 years down the line, we realize that it really is beyond just the war on drugs. It is a war on social equity. It really is a war on equity within the social capacity of a community of people that have been poached to have all of their resources and all of their education and all of their funding just devoid. And what that does to a psyche of a people in any community.
Well, I read Michelle Alexander's book, great, of course, it just left my mind, where she talked about the prison system. Oh, the new Jim Crow. And I feel like, talking about that, I really super recommend it to everyone. If you really feel like you're not, especially if you feel like you're not understanding what's going on here economically and socially and the prison system, like that will give you a really good grasp on it. And then I think it kind of brings you here to this moment where we have an opportunity to undo some of these unjust things, and yet we're leaning back into it. Like, I know I sent you, there was Hassan Minhaj from the Patriot Act a year or two ago. He did a special on it, and turns out John Boehner's in the weed game now.
Yep.
Like, come on.
And you see that in Illinois as well. You see former police, former politicians that were against
Who?
cannabis.
Let's get some names.
Well, we're not going to just...
We can't call out people who were against it and then sucked it up before the people deserved it.
There's actually a website that has all of the information.
I mean, if there was anybody that I would say isn't doing it now, but potentially will do it in the future, be against something and then sneak in, I would say Catanzaro. He's such a jerk. Oh my god, I could see him doing something that shady.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if your viewers are Pritzker fans, but
probably not.
Anti-Pritzker.
Yeah.
In this camp,
well, I don't know. Maybe the radio show. I was just thinking about the people literally following me right now, and I was like, I don't think these people are Pritzker fans. But.
I mean, he blatantly lied. He said that he was going to be providing generational wealth to the Black and Brown community, and what we see is the people that have received licenses, although dispensary licenses are tied up in lawsuits 2 years later, but there are some craft grows, transports, and infusion licenses, which we can get into those if you want, because I, in my opinion, think some of them are just bullshit. Can I say that? No.
That's a borderline thing.
Sorry.
Yes. I don't know.
Maybe.
If you remember George Carlin's thing about 7 words you can't say, that's...
Well, no, because remember South Park undid one of them, and they said, the S word, 80 times in a half hour on one of their episodes.
Oh, was that the one where
they had to
count?
Yes. It was called The Word of Curse. I'm not a huge South Park fan, but I just remember they busted that.
They had a little
gonna
thing in the corner where every time they said the word, it was roll over.
You're never going to be allowed to let me on this radio again. But so if you look at who actually received licenses, there are some Black and Brown people, but all of them are really connected to the government.
Yeah.
I had heard at one point that if corporate places were gonna get involved, they had to also partner with local Black people in the community or something like that. Is that? Am I understanding that?
So in going through our application process, there was a point in where the state had informed us that our community engagement portions of our applications were really going to have the most weight of the applications, and that was going to speak back to really the restitution that is what the states are trying to utilize, freeing cannabis or having recreational cannabis within the state as having. However, what we see is that that's not what actually occurred. There were bargaining agreements that a lot of these multi-state operators were supposed to opt into, to where monies would be given back to the communities. And it was like pulling teeth to get these multi-state dispensary retail shops to actually join in to what it is that they had said that they had agreed to, which is why they applied and received a license.
So how are they getting away with it?
There's no accountability. Who's holding who accountable?
Well, the other thing too is multi-states, usually they end up being more like Starbucks, where they end up popping up on every corner because
That's
they
exactly
have money.
it.
And they have major turnover. And they have these rules that they're supposed to abide by with COVID, and they don't, and so then they
put out horrible product. They have horrible working environments from the people that we've spoken to. They instead of having good practices, they want to unionize, and then even with the union, they're not even following that, whatever that is being created. Who knows? Unfortunately, what we're dealing with is a new system, new regulation, and it's a fucking it's
a tough topic. It's a tough topic. It took me a long time to stop doing it too.
It's just a mortgageboard of unknowing, uneducation, not really any oversight or accountability. And so you have organizations like Social Equity Empowerment Network, which is a policy-based and advocacy-based trade association for cannabis. You have things like True Social Equity in Cannabis. That is the foundation so that we can provide resources. You have things like ex-cons and Community and Social Change that are fighting for, violence prevention and making sure that ex-cons have an availability to enter within this culture that we created.
Yeah.
And I correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like Lori Lightfoot is also helping to not solve this problem
At all.
That's the we just passed out a little
Oh,
informational
yeah.
thing for the thing we were at earlier today.
Yeah, so you want to talk about, I know you'll have a bunch of events going on this week. And so if you want to come out, and I'll be sharing mine too. Mm-hmm. So I'll be sharing the information.
That's one of the things we do here.
Yeah.
We share.
Oh, that's dope. Yeah, so this is actually an org that we're in support of. That they just did a rally this morning, and they're trying to get as many signatures on. But you should talk about this. You sound more intelligent than me.
on their petition, in order to make sure that ex-cons have access to be in the hemp industry. Right now, the hemp industry is under a lot of restrictions as well, trying to incorporate this 2018 Farm Bill that has more restrictions upon people that have substance abuse or substance convictions on their record. That they're not able to participate in doing anything within the cannabis family, whether that's hemp or THC. And ultimately, it's still another way to enslave us and to make sure that we are restricted and don't have any access to build our own communities and our own families after we've been imprisoned for the very thing that everybody else is making money on except us.
Yeah. And that's not hyperbole.
And ultimately, at the end of the day, what we're talking about is really a sustainable flower that can not only heal, but is a natural resource that can sustain an entire economy.
Yeah. It's definitely.
And when we're talking about that, and we're looking at this as a world health epidemic, because at the end of the day, to not allow somebody natural healing avenues for their own health and safety, but you're willing to provide pharmaceuticals that kill us every day, it is a problem. And we're not talking about the real issues that are going on because we're distracted in the commerce of the corporatized industry that has been built by white men that have no idea what cannabis is even about, what the business is about, what the culture was about, why it is that we even had the prohibition for it in the first place. I mean, one of the reasons that it came in this country was from slavery.
Here's an interesting dichotomy, if you will, comparison, I guess, that I personally had to deal with. I used to be a manager for a store. I'm not going to give you the store's name. I'll just give you their initials, GNC. And, back in the day, there was an herb called mahong. Have you heard of mahong?
I have not.
Mahong is a natural source of ephedra. and it was used in diet aids. Well, one of the things that we told people is if you have pre-existing heart conditions, stuff like that, you shouldn't be taking it because it's like speed. Well, there were some kids, there was like maybe 5-6 kids, I'm not sure, one summer who died in heat while doing things like track and sports that were taking it to lose weight, and the federal government went nuts.
Oh.
The federal government went nuts and they banned the herb. But funny thing is, ephedra is now used in certain
Cough syrups.
Doctor recommended diet programs.
Oh yeah,
and stuff like
of
that.
course.
And I'm like,
that's what they do. They shut down these avenues. That's what they're trying to do with kratom right now as well. I don't know if y'all are familiar with kratom, but it activates your opioid receptors without being an opiate. So people actually use it to get off of like opioid addictions that they received from their doctors. And it's a plant from like the Indonesian area. And it comes in different strains, and it's medicinal, and it has pain killing effects. It can be stimulating, it can be relaxing. There's different strains, and they're trying really hard to shut that down too because they don't have a full grasp on that regulation.
It's crazy to me because then you hear about states. I believe it. I want to say California, but I'm not sure. But you hear about states that are then trying to provide crack houses, basically, so that people can have a safe space to do crack.
Yeah, was it New York? They just did that, right?
It was a state that's new that is providing like these establishments, but yet we can't free the plant and free the people and provide clemency to anybody that has had a non-offending cannabis.
Why is it taking so long?
They realize that America, everyone is are on some kind of drugs. Not everyone.
People like drugs.
Drugs are addictive, and the government put them in
Tylenol is
the
a drug. You know how many people live on Tylenol?
Right.
Acetaminophen.
So they realized that how much money was in the drug game, so they wanted to get in too. So now it's all going to be government,
See, now
regulated.
Now we're getting to an interesting subject here. It's about the addiction thing. I have issues with my back and my leg. I have sciatica.
That is terrible.
Yeah. And one time I was going over a friend's house. We were doing a going away party, and she had a beautiful spread there. It was pizza and stuff like that. It was a beautiful spread, and my sciatica was killing me. So I'm eating and stuff like that, and eventually the sciatica started going away, and I said to my friend, "Oh, I feel so much better. It's like this couch must be, She goes, "What did you have to eat?" And I'm like, "Well, I had some pizza, I had some of this, and I had the brownies." And she goes,
It's
guess
the brownies.
what? It's the brownies.
Right.
And then another friend of mine that we mutually know gave me a gummy for my sciatica, and now, but I'm not addicted to it. I only use it when needed.
I think that people throw
It's
the
not addictive.
and I think people throw the word addiction around a lot more loosely because it became like a really big buzzword to scare everybody. Like, if you have a drink 3 times a week, you're an alcoholic. Like, I don't think that's how that works. Like, if your body's not dependent on it, you're not addicted.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say everyone is addicted to caffeine.
Yeah.
You could say everyone's addicted to sugar.
Cheers.
Yeah, for sure. Sugar.
I don't drink caffeine or have sugar. So
I gotta tell you though, the whole sugar industry in this country does function like a drug industry.
Cartel.
That is literally trying to make people addicted.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
Well, here I am going off on one of my mental tangents. But
It's your show.
One of the news pieces that came out today was Biden.
Milk is a gateway.
Milk is a gateway.
That's what somebody said.
Biden,
Especially if it has GMO in it.
Biden wants to regulate the meat industry to bring down prices on meat. Because he says that the meat industry is gouging people.
Well, it's also gotten really gross. Like, have you seen the videos from Purdue? I mean, I don't understand. Our workers' rights have slid so far backwards in this country in like the last, I don't know, decade or so, right?
Well, no, it's actually more than that. I always talk about this with people. Back in the day when I was a youngin', we used to, when holidays came around, they closed everything except for police stations, hotels, essentials, hospitals. They closed everything down. You couldn't get groceries on the 4th of July or on not Halloween, Memorial Day, Labor Day, President's Day. You could not go to a grocery store because they closed everything down. Now you're lucky if you get a holiday.
Yeah. Nobody gets time off. We are even talking about the CDC's like, oh, you don't have symptoms, but you have COVID, go to work. Like, they're actually, I don't know if y'all heard that. There's places, a friend of mine's a nurse and said if they test positive but have no symptoms, they have to come into work.
Because they need them.
Yeah.
Listen,
so we're economy over health.
Pandemic is
economic. I want to say something about the meat industry, though.
Oh, yeah.
It needs to be regulated.
Yeah.
I said it. But
it does.
However, it needs to be regulated by some kind of ethics committee.
Yes.
Not the government.
Yeah, we need like an ethics committee oversight on the government. Can we just build something more powerful on top of them?
Exactly.
I don't think there's anything in the Constitution that says we can't.
Well, I'm
going to start that right now.
There is an ethics, believe it or not, there is an ethics committee in the government.
But it is in the government.
It's in the government, and they keep finding Marjorie Taylor Greene for not wearing a mask.
Whatever, her fans are just paying for it.
There's actually an ethics committee in Illinois as well. Did you know that?
Yeah.
I mean, what are they?
Don't know what they're doing.
I was like, what is the last thing they did?
Blagojevich.
They're definitely not regulating the cannabis industry.
No, the last thing I think the ethics committee did was this whole thing with ComEd. The whole scandal with
that no one really is talking about.
Yeah,
and that's the thing.
I want my ComEd money, damn it.
Yeah, Greg mentioned, he's like, what industry is not an evil empire now? But the truth is, like, we've really got to talk about some of the ones that just get brushed over, because then we do think about it like that. Then we're just like, oh, they're all bad. So we don't pay attention to what.
That is so the problem. I'll bring this up to people and they'll be like, oh yeah, that's typical. Like, that's typical of Illinois.
It shouldn't be typical, though. People should always remind themselves that what you are getting used to, you shouldn't get used to.
But that's the thing when we're talking about a world health epidemic. That's not just something that's physical, like this COVID, but something that is emotional, that is mental, that is psychological.
We have a very bad mental health epidemic here in the United States.
Across the world, because most of us, a lot of us are in denial. And the denial that we're in allows us to not actually move in the way that we should, so that we can create the changes and the positive things that we want to see within our environments, because it's a lot easier to just turn away versus to take the risk and the courage to create something and to figure out what to do, even if it's just lifting your voice to say, hold on, does this make sense? Is this real? Is this reality? I need somebody to have a conversation with, so that I can make sure that I'm not missing something, because how things look isn't how it should feel or how it should look.
People think that January 6th of last year was something that suddenly happened. No.
Oh, that was planned.
It was not only was it planned, but it's been brewing for decades. We knew it was coming. We just didn't know when.
I mean, you can see it all the way back to, like, here's a hard shift. The Turner Diaries, which I'm not sure if y'all know what the Turner Diaries was written by this KKK member in the 70s. And, like, the book's illegal. You're not really supposed to have it, but of course it's still circulating. And it lays out their tactic as, try to do these things as isolated incidents, basically teaching them terrorism. And there's some people who say Timothy McVeigh was like the warning, like that was the first ringing of the bell. And so literally calling these all isolated is part of the game plan.
Yeah.
Like, and that's why they don't want them to be, or historically didn't want them to be too connected. But now that they had Trump to rally under, and like they fully like infiltrating the police entirely, that was obviously on it. Not that it really needed any encouragement.
Police, doctors. There's anti-masker doctors.
Yeah.
And nurses that are like, the military. We're seeing a big issue with the military.
And we literally have the book where they wrote their directions down, and we can just point to everyone who's done that.
Yeah.
And somehow it's still.
I mean, the world is so effed up. I did it.
Thank you.
You did it. You did it.
I think rather than focusing on the negatives, which there's so much of that happening, we got to focus on how to fix it.
Yeah.
We have to focus on what do we demand to change? What do we need to see differently in the legal cannabis industry, and what are we as a community going to what are we going to do about it?
Yeah.
And that's really what it comes down to, is having these grassroots organizations that are willing to step outside the lines that are being colored, so that the avenues and the resources are being created for us and by us, because there isn't anybody that's going to come for us. These multi-state operators, they have monopolized the industry, and they will continue to. But that's not a reason to shy away or to not take part in. That's actually more of a reason to delve fully in. And creating a way and not being afraid. If you Black in America, you afraid every day, any goddamn way.
I can't imagine. I mean, I sometimes just sit after watching videos and try to really imagine like the fear, like walking around outside, like with white privilege. It's very hard to
And some of y'all with white privilege don't
that.
even know how to use your white privilege. I say this all the time to my white friends, because I'm like, man, some of y'all don't even know how to utilize the white privilege that you have to actually create the spaces that we need, so that we can all be able to thrive. The world was.
Is there one that you're thinking off the top of your head that we'll go ahead and give that out to some white people? Like, that's a tangible thing to do.
I mean, the thing, like, I'm a white person in primarily a Black space in the last year. So, like, the thing is, we have to be there and support, but let their voices be heard.
Yeah, shut your mouth.
Support what they got to say, and not be offended that they don't want to hear us. And still be there anyway if we're not necessarily agreeing.
Yeah, and most of the time in these kinds of subjects, we don't know what we're talking about. Like, we need to be listening, like not guessing what we think we understand.
To know that there's guidance that needs to be had. We are all in a state of a society that has been created in a mindset that is a psychopathic mindset.
Yes.
And nobody wants to address that. And so in order to even change that mindset, we have to come away from that mentality so that we can really see and address the things that need to be addressed. But if you're looking for anybody to give you any type of reparations or anything like that, forget about it. It's never going to happen. This country will never admit their wrongs that they have done to Black people of America. It's never going to happen. What we can do is try to look for restitution, and that restitution comes in making sure that the equity is dispersed within our communities, within our households, within our educational system, within our infrastructure, so that it's never ever again something that that happened with the Oklahoma massacre that is wiped away from us.
Yeah.
And thank you for bringing up the education system too, because that's another thing that
we whitewash everything.
As somebody of a certain age, I have seen changes for the worst over the decades in the education system, and I
mean, the whole thing, like, this system that is white supremacy is functioning very well and well oiled in this country.
They've had a lot of time to do it.
Yeah, and I was really sad to hear that you didn't think we'd ever be able to get reparations for the Black community.
Because you would have to have America to admit everything that they have done to people of color. And America never will. This is America KKK. not America, we the people.
It's just always...
We the people was intended for rich, wealthy white men who owned property.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, even in Illinois now, like, most of the state
and
is
those
red.
Were
like,
property owned people.
Yeah.
And not just land.
Yes. Yeah. I was just thinking about the land owning thing real quick. Sorry, I didn't mean to change the subject. But, like, they still try to do that here in Illinois because 60% of the population is here. But they're like, we have all this land, though, and we're red. We don't, we should be able to vote more people in instead of Chicago. And, like, even though 60% of the population of the state's here, they're always trying to flip it red. Like, we have the land.
They need to get rid of the they need to stop gerrymandering. They need to stop with the electoral college. They're obsolete. They need to start doing popular vote. That's the only way. I
don't know, but thinking about like from a grassroots perspective and local, I do think that's something that Chicago does pretty well. And I wish there was like a way, I don't know, how to get some of these other states, especially like when they're building up their weed industry that may be being introduced into the states. I'm wondering if there's some like formula we saw or something that we can block from happening in other places where they may be legalizing.
So basically, other states are looking to us right now. So going back to what you were asking about earlier, the actions that we have planned.
Yes.
So we actually had planned 7 days of action this week, but the House of Representatives in Illinois, they because of COVID, changed their in-person meetings to Zoom meetings. So we were going to be going out to Springfield today. But instead, we joined ECCSC for their event downtown and wanted to come on the show and bring awareness here. So,
yes.
So our 7 days of action will be every single month this year from the 20th through the 27th, and we will be mobilizing in all of the states. We have open meetings on Sundays from 1 to 3. Anyone can attend as long as you aren't a horrible monster from the MSOs. And I do bet you. And we're talking about how to make this right. We're talking about our demands and their demands for what legacy to legal is going to look like. We are going to tell them what it needs to be, as opposed to pussyfooting around. Can I say that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a word.
If it's not referring to a part of the body, yes, you can.
I wonder.
It's so technical.
So if you want to join the conversations on Sundays, just message True Social Equity and Cannabis or Weed the People, WEED. THAPPL, because all the other ones were taken. But
gonna have to write that down and show them.
Yeah, also on True Social, we have True Social Equity on Facebook as well. But
I have you on Twitter right here.
Yeah. Right at this point we don't have any money, and it's just kind of me doing the socials, and I have dyslexia. Twitter is never really been my thing.
You're preaching to the choir. Social media, I'm not exactly the best person at social media. I try to do what I can.
It sucks because like so many artists are not great at social media. They just want to create the thing they create, but now you also have to be your own marketing and all of it.
That's when collaboration is really important in every aspect of unifying, right? Because not only then are you being able and open to receive other different creative ideas and thoughts and see where things can go, but you're also providing other opportunities for somebody else to express themselves and provide for themselves in a financial way. We need more collaborative efforts across the board. And unfortunately, it's really hard, especially within this space as well, because there's so many different poachers and there's so many unauthentic people that really only care about their only agenda. But that's the nature of society, right? That's the nature of the world. So there's that accountability again.
I always feel like there's this disconnect of like our heroes on TV and in our stories and the actual actions people take. Like this, they're like, I aspire to this moral standard.
That's another thing that changed over the decades. I mean, back when I was growing up, we looked up to scientists. We looked up to people who were in the arts. But now it's like sports people.
Movie stars.
Yeah, movie stars.
It's more entertainment versus more of the spiritual arts.
Yeah.
Here's a fun fact. The arts in this country bring in more money annually than manufacturing and agriculture combined, and artists are the lowest paid workers in the country.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
absolutely
Yes.
insane.
Yes, just billions of dollar industry, and like most people creating the art are making nothing to sustain themselves with.
Yeah, and it's hard too because like I've really been an artist. Like I produced my own play in the 3rd grade. So like I've been making art for a long time. I'm 37 now, and I truly in my heart believe that no one should have to pay to see a play or to have any kind of interaction with art. But I also believe that artists need to be paid a good wage. So those kind of contradict each other. And I had a friend who was like, "Oh, you'd really get along in Berlin," because I didn't know this, but Berlin, because it was a city that was devastated and really had no one there. To get people there, they paid artists to come into the city and produce art.
That's how you build cities.
Can
Art.
we please do that?
Yes. Yes, I'm pro that. And I agree. Like
It was a salary. It wasn't like they had to apply for a grant. That's the bullshit thing. Like it's always
it's always like you've got to do a lot of work to find somebody who will give you money to do it. Like,
and then the work basically was the amount of money that you got.
Right, and that's what paid those many hours.
Right.
See,
but
here's something you might not have known about me.
No.
I grew up with the arts. I
can see that.
I studied music for 10 years when I was little.
Do you play any instruments?
Trumpet.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I mean, I've been away from the trumpet because when I moved to Philadelphia after I moved away from home, I ended up taking dance.
Oh.
And I took dance for 5 years.
What kind of dance?
Jazz and street dance.
That's fun.
Yeah.
I think you should bring a trumpet in here sometime and.
Oh, my embouchure is so. It's been so long. Once upon a time, we used to have a recording studio here, and I tried to bring my trumpet in and play. And I have a thing on here an app that basically makes sure your instrument is in tune, and it's. It would take a lot, and it's hard for a musician who lives in a rental.
Yeah.
To do anything.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
So that, and then
I loved musicians that were playing on
I
the
did
other
too.
side of the window. Yeah.
Somebody
You do a
around the
DJ
corner
across
from
the street.
we have an opera singer.
Yeah.
Like you can hear her singing from a whole block away. It's wonderful.
Oh my god! Sorry to change the subject.
Yeah.
I love musicians. I went to a performing arts middle school and high school, so I'm all about art in general. But I was on the news last night unexpectedly, and because there was a news I think it was ABC, and I'm nosy, and so I was like, what are y'all doing? And they were like, there was a brutal attack around the corner a few days ago. Did you hear about it? And I was like, no, but I'm not surprised because I live in Uptown. And I was telling him about how it's the gang territory and other stuff. And he was like, can I get your reaction? And he didn't really show me the video completely that they ended up using. So my reaction was like, violence needs a job, which is what ECCSC says all the time. And I said if violence had a job, maybe they wouldn't have to hurt other people to help feed their own families. So they show this video, this horrible video that I didn't see fully, and then use my quote, violence needs a job, at the end, and it makes me sound like a very horrible person. And,
they love to do that.
And I didn't even know until I went on my Facebook, and there were people who I didn't even know on my Facebook going like, how, and they used my full name too, which I didn't expect.
You could contact them about that.
Messaged,
Yeah, you can, so
I
they can
emailed him. I was
correct
like, can you please not put my full name on here?
Yeah, or can you
Use
also
it
like,
context.
Fully correctly?
and can you also insert my entire quote instead
Right.
of like
Partial?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right, because I really was like trying to promote what was going on this morning,
yeah.
and he didn't use any of that.
No, they love to like make people look as bad as whatever's the most sensational sounding thing that you did. But I did want to circle back because we were talking about tangible.
Yeah.
I was like, why does that word sound wrong to me all of a sudden? Tangible actions that people can take. And I like to go sometimes like my state representative when they hold like town halls or whatever. And I remember the last one I went to with Kelly Cassidy. And I remember even asking about the cannabis industry. I was like, when are we going to get this untangled?
Thank you for asking that. What'd she
Yeah.
say?
And she had very
I've
little to
interviewed
say.
her.
Yeah, she had very little to say about it at the time.
She ran into a bathroom like Kristen Cinema.
Well, no, you know what? I like Kelly Cassidy, honestly, and I like a lot of the stuff she's doing, especially because I also ask about, like what more can we do about sex trafficking and human trafficking here? That's a topic that I really want to get a documentary done on. But
We've talked about that.
but she actually those beds that were available for women escaping it were actually created by her. So knowing things like that she's like, built things for these smaller, less, or these topics that don't get talked about in the government as much. I know she at least cares. And hearing that you interviewed her, I'm interested to know like what more she said, because she said not much. She's like, I was like, well, what can we do? And she just was like, I don't know. And I'm like,
Yeah,
somebody's got to
to
know.
Her response to my questions. I really need to go back and review it because I've interviewed so many people in the last year, and sometimes I'll get like 4 interviews in 1 week and then not have a chance to review all of it.
Yeah.
I did put one clip on the page that was addressing what people were upset about, which was she was part of the legalization bill that was put out, and so people were kind of blaming her a little bit for what it looks like. And she basically responded with, like, I did the best that I could with the people that I had. And she said that there were formerly incarcerated people in the room, which since I've actually met one of them, turns out they were a student at DePaul and probably had no say in anything. But hey, if they were in the room, I don't think that actually...
Go stand over there and keep your mouth shut.
But but at least like they were aware of that. And then she said, and I had no connection with any of the implementation. She had nothing to do with the implementation, which, I'm learning about government in the last year and how the reason why it doesn't work. And that's one of the reasons. Like, why be the person that helps write the thing and is not a part of implementation?
Yeah, and no oversight on it either, right?
So there was supposed to be some oversight, but
we're still working through that and trying to figure out the workings of what oversight looks like and what oversight means.
Yeah.
And then who actually is going to be a part of that oversight and what are they overseeing?
And so what do you recommend? Who do you think should be?
I think that part of the oversight should come from the community, from the people. Because we're the ones who created it and understand how the culture should run.
Yeah.
And our voices
how
should be
legacy
heard.
already is running.
And how it already is running.
How much power do the older people have in this industry?
how much do they want to have? Like, how much do they want to stick their necks out for the Black and Brown community?
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
Maria
Incarcerated
Hadwood. I
community.
love my older person.
Oh, I love her. She's one of my good friends.
Actually,
yes.
I love her so much, and I sometimes in the Rogers Park News or something, like people like I did a post after she did something, and I'm like, Maria Hadden for mayor, and people are like, what do you like her? Blah, and I listed all these reasons I like her, including policies and stuff. They're like, you sound like her friend, and I'm like, I've literally never met her. I saw her once when my building caught on fire, and she was there within 30 minutes, 20 minutes.
Wow.
In the middle of the night.
Yes.
I saw her there. So, that's when I really started
She's definitely for the people and for the community and the things.
I think so
that
too.
is impactful and that what needs attention to, she makes sure that it gets the awareness that it needs for Rogers Park.
Yeah,
See,
we made national.
I've never met her.
Well, we made national news because when COVID first started, she built this community response team in Rogers Park where immediately I started driving for them. But, people who couldn't leave their homes because, it was a scary time. Like, I'd go pick up groceries for people. People were just giving money. And basically, she just pulled together this thing. And AOC caught wind of it because it became very functional. It was keeping people in their homes. It was keeping people fed. Diapers on babies, like everything. And so AOC gave a shout out and like, this is a community sample of things you can do to help your own community.
But that's the
during
thing
COVID.
is that we need people that are willing to delve in with their communities and get their hands dirty and not being afraid to not fit within the mold of what the politicians and what everyone is trying to move towards, and be willing to push the envelope so that we get the changes that we need and the resources that we need.
There's
How many
so
people?
much propaganda.
Yeah.
Is the problem. There's so much propaganda that buying your product at a dispensary is healthier and cleaner and safer. Not true. Not true at all. There's propaganda that we need over-regularization.
You got it, girl. You got it. It came out eventually.
Because of safety issues, obviously based on the mold issues that are occurring with over-regularization.
And tell us
It's
about
not-
the mold issues
it's
because
not
this was
propaganda.
new to me. Have you heard about
I've
this?
heard about this, yeah.
Oh, thank God. Well, basically, I mean, some of the only growers in the state don't know what they're doing, and they're not curing the product properly. So
Well, you have a
make
supply
mold.
and demand issue at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, when Illinois first opened, day one, they ran out of product, but they were so smart in their whole rolling out of
Yeah.
legalization that they came with the retail versus the cultivation.
Yeah.
So where did they get their product from? No one wants to talk about that.
Yeah.
What is
So
it,
they
Murder
get traffic,
Mountain?
but we go to jail.
We get it from Murder Mountain. Joel.
and then also just the propaganda that because there's a lot of farmer. I am not able to speak right. I'm trying to not curse. Is the thing.
Formalization.
There's
Former
workers. There are a lot
Former
of former
workers.
workers that were fired. Even bringing up the idea of unions.
Oh, yeah.
And just anyone who brought up the right thing, basically working for these MSOs, were fired. Now that they're starting to unionize, like, what about those people that they fired? Also, the propaganda that the MSOs are pushing to these people is that there's no way that you, as a person who has been in this business for 10 plus years, but wants a license, you're not going to be able to get it. You're going to need us to get that license. So we're going to go ahead and put you on our application, and we're going to say that you own 51%, but you actually don't have any ownership after a certain amount of time. We're going to give you like $1,000, and then you actually have no management in this. You're not, it's not actually yours. We're just going to help you out, give you a little bit of up. And because there's no way you're going to be able to do it on your own. Like, that's the propaganda. And I guess in some way they were, right, because look at it how it is. But it's in my opinion, the problem is so many people believed it that it made it true. You can make things happen.
I have a good friend. I have a good friend who she got a job in the industry at a independently owned place in the very beginning. Miss Jackie, I love you, Miss Jackie. Miss Jackie, very talented singer. If you happen to see Miss Jackie in the Sass, or once in a while, she'll actually sing with Flavie Hoffman of the Flavie Hoffman Trio. And,
No idea.
Flavie Hoffman, who has a show on here on Saturdays.
Oh!
Yeah, that Flavie Hoffman.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm at the radio station where he is.
Right before Thomas's show.
Oh, is it? I haven't. Okay, got it.
So anyway, and she loved it. she's been happy. She says it was one of the most rewarding things. But then you think about the corporate
Did
side.
she sell weed before she worked there?
No,
So she has no other reference.
no, the reference.
I may or may not have illegally sold weed, a decade and a half ago.
I don't
And
know.
I have very little information.
But that's part of the problem is that a lot of the people that have very little insight are the ones making and drafting the policy and the legislation and
Yeah.
Do not understand how to create the oversight or the lower barriers to entry or those types of things that need to occur.
Yeah.
And that's why we and the multitude of organizations out here, and we lift our voices and we fight and we create policy and we draft legislation and we lobby to make sure that there's actual legislation that allows the opportunity for people that have been damaged because of the war on drugs, aka the war on blacks, that we are able to have access to an industry and equity to put back within our communities. You cannot have free access to cannabis and not allow the people that have been directly affected to not also have access to capital
Yeah.
and resources.
Well,
For all of that, we'll fucking throw
Not
this
if you're gonna
whole
claim-
goddamn thing to the ground.
Yeah.
And we'll make sure that the legacy market thrives well over the corporate market, because it will always be there and it will always thrive. And as long as we work together and we stand together and then we create the avenues that is business wise, so that industry, that culture rises above the corporate corruption, we'll be all right.
And these kinds of voices need to be in front of politicians, because for the last 8 years in Illinois, those voices were coming from the MSO's lobbyists, and those were not the right voices to have in your ear. I mean,
Right.
even this last year, we worked with a few former politicians and then writing some bills that could have potentially been great, and then they were changed last minute. And the drastic changes were things like, that money that they promised, the social equity licenses, that's not in there anymore.
Uh-huh.
So they
Oh.
have licenses, but they have none of the money that they were promised to help
So-
get their businesses up.
Well, so one thing I was thinking of while y'all were talking is what strategically, I was trying to imagine, what strategically, how many people in each area would be needed in order to try to influence their older person, in order to try to influence enough older people to stand up for these communities, to, what is a plan, tactical way, to succeed in this?
Well, when it comes to mobilization and organizing, you have organizations like ECCSC, like Social Equity Empowerment Network, and like True Social Equity Academies that are out here that create demonstrations and that provide actions and that are out here lobbying. And when we're asking for people to show up, that's exactly what we need. We need the bodies to be there in support of the things that we're pushing out on the table, whether it's legislation or whether it's stopping legislation or introducing legislation or just bringing about the awareness so that we can stop giving money to these organizations, to these retail shops that are not doing anything to put any money back into our communities and to support the licenses that need to be given to people that have been disenfranchised and who are still being incarcerated for the very thing that they're able to make billions of dollars on.
The
So-
first thing you can do is stop going to the dispensary and
Yeah.
don't give them
Support
your
your
money.
local weed person.
Yeah.
Whether it's a male, whether it's a woman, and be open to redeveloping that relationship.
Totally. I was thinking maybe marketing also is a big part of it as well, because that the industry, they get to market over, you're talking about the propaganda, this is cleaner, this is better, and maybe they having better marketing and people knowing that. I love this sign that's in here, and it says the goal of a revolutionary artist is to make the revolution irresistible. And I'm just thinking, I don't know.
When does it switch to propaganda?
Right.
Yeah.
Because eventually it's taken over. That's also a problem that I've been struggling with for the last year. Is there is a lot of organizations that have been doing this work, important work, have started to take money from MSOs because they need money to survive, and I get that. But when do you stop saying the things that you should still be saying?
Well, that's the thing, is making sure that you're authentic in your voice and that your voice isn't watered down just because of the dollars that you accept, and that you also have accountability to the measurements that you put in place with the money that you accept. It's not bad that you accept money from MSOs. It's in how it is that you appropriate that money within your organization, and how do you hold them accountable so that you're not a token, but you're actually in a strategic alliance and partnership, so that they're actually holding up their end of the bargain and you're receiving the benefits so that you can hold up your end of the bargain.
Right.
What's an MSO?
Multi-state operator.
Oh,
which
okay.
is all of the companies that are
I
in operation.
get free. Before I continue, I just want to pay some bills. You're listening to What News here on Q4 Radio 1680 AM. You can also find us on iTunes, TuneIn, Facebook, and of course Q4.org. Just look us up. And we are here with not only the lovely and talented Rachel Bloomstrom, because I got
You're looking at Epstein.
Yeah. We're here with annaroseii-epstein and Vitoria Herring from
Vitoria.
Vitoria?
I
Vitoria.
put the line over it to make the I long.
Oh, there is the line. I'm sorry. Vitoria Herring. I'm sorry. I'm so bad at names.
Well, you're also trying to read my handwriting, and I have carpal tunnel, and it's not great.
And they're here from True Social.
I do.
And they're here from True Social Equity in Cannabis and Weed. What was that?
Weed the People.
Weed the People.
As well as Social Equity.
Because I saw what you did there with
Network.
that name. That's a great name. And we're just talking about the cannabis industry and how kind of shady things got over the years.
Yeah, and
since we first started it, yeah.
Yeah, and what's actually transpired here in Chicago and Illinois since implementing weed.
Yeah. Now here's an interesting thing. We talked about this a month ago. Every year, twice a year, I go to the One of a Kind gift show at Merchandise Mart in Chicago. They have a Christmas one and they have a spring one. And I actually bought some gummies there. It was a company that made CBD cosmetics, but they also sold their own gummies. And for those of you that don't know what One of a Kind is a gift show that features local artists and makers and things like that. So, and then we also started talking about how it has kind of gotten into it's gotten more into everyday life, because I can think of a couple of shows in the past couple years that have come out, like on the Food Network and stuff like that, where they do cook-offs using CBD oils and things like that.
And THC, too.
THC.
Yeah.
And they actually explain
monetizing.
it. They actually explain it to you, what the differences are, why you want to do this certain percentage in one thing, and then this certain percentage in another, and then the last, so it's slowly becoming more of an acceptable, as opposed to reefer madness.
Other propaganda.
The other propaganda.
Well, again, when you focus on the health aspects of it and the benefits of the plant, and you actually educate the people, then they can understand why it is that they have chosen to partake in this particular medicinal plant.
Yeah.
Most people are not even underneath the mental understanding that they're self-medicating, because it's been so pushed in the propaganda that it is taboo and it's just a drug that's recreational, that we've forgotten that we're actually all self-medicating.
Yeah. It's a regular basis.
Yeah, like I have a.
I'm self-medicating right now. Cheers. I got coffee in my hand.
Yeah. See, I have an inflammatory disease that I've had since I was 11. So, and I just recently, in the last 3 years, realized that because it's a rare thing, and it usually comes out like as a dermatology issue, but it's very painful. And so I realized 3 years ago that it was an inflammatory issue, and so I completely changed my lifestyle. I only eat anti-inflammatory foods, which is very little foods. I can't go out to eat. I always have to make all my own food, and it's a pain in the ass, but can I say ass?
Yeah.
Okay, but I feel so much better. And also, I've been using cannabis for like 17 years. So naturally, I didn't realize, but the cannabis was helping with my inflammatory issues. Mm-hmm. And I've also struggled with a lot of anxiety and depression, and it's just in my family, and I know it. So and a lot of people in my family are medicated with prescriptions, and I'm the type of person that I don't even like taking killers. I'll smoke a joint and I'll be fine. And I'm also a massage therapist. I'm an energy worker, and I believe in the healing powers of the natural vibe. Green natural healing is my thing.
I didn't know you're a massage therapist. I'm a massage connoisseur.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I've been a massage therapist for 10 years.
I am so good at accepting massages. I had to get one yesterday.
The power of touch. Even just Reiki, even just like literally touching someone, especially in the day and age where we're all separated and interacting online. Like, I have to protect my energy a lot, but also like you have to be open to helping other people heal if you're a healer.
Yeah, there's literal professional cuddlers.
Oh yeah,
really?
Like, oh
yeah, people will go and like you cuddle. You have an hour session.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just go and lay down with somebody and cuddle.
You hear that, James?
It's very big in the queer community, actually.
My husband.
Yeah, I know it started pretty big.
You hear that? You can make some money from cuddling.
Yeah, he does seem like he'd be a good cuddler.
Yeah, I think it actually started more like in the trans community because there was just a lack of like understanding, and so there started to be like cuddles.
Yeah, well, and that would make sense because a lot of trans people deal with difficulties at home, and so losing out on maybe some family support and affection, like definitely like cuddle, it's healing.
But anyone could
being
benefit from it.
Yeah, but I can see why, that might have, like a community like that would be where it starts, trying to all be more mutually supportive and affectionate and loving. Yeah, I heard about it, like New York City people were like, this is a few years ago, they were just feeling lonely and didn't feel like dating, and so they hired a cuddler, and they just were happy with just that. They didn't even, I don't know, I thought it was interesting.
You need sex workers when you can get cuddles.
Some of them are just that. Different. There are some sex workers who, they've told, they're like, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and one thing she used to do, she was like, her favorite person would come and they would watch anime together. And like, that's how they spent their hour together.
Oh, wow.
Just watching anime, hanging out, holding hands.
See, that's another story for another time, but there was, when who was president before Biden.
Voldemort,
yeah. The orange Voldemort. So, there was an attack on sex workers at one point in Congress, and that never
wasn't it out of the massage shooting or something? Didn't it come from that?
I think so.
Because there was a shooting that happened in a massage parlor.
Yeah. And that was their whole deflection thing.
Workers, which
that was their whole.
Therapists are not necessarily sex workers. Like, it's two different things.
And we also need to regulate the sex industry to protect people.
Yeah. We have gotten on a tangent. Let's talk more about cannabis.
Well, this show, What News, does kind of meander through different news.
We do that. I have ADHD, so I just talk about anything that comes into my head.
Which is absolutely acceptable, especially because there are tons of conversations that people shy away from that need to be had anyway. So be willing to go on that journey to see where the conversation goes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and
as long as you're open to learning and receiving.
Yeah, and you kind of forget tangentially, like a lot of these things are related ultimately.
Yeah.
You know?
See, it gets so bad sometimes here that we have this thing that we do. You know how when they have news programs and you hear depression, and they break up the depression with a really lighthearted story. They call it a fluff piece. Mm-hmm. Well, we have something we do here called Fluffing with Darren, where we try to talk about anything but.
Well, what we could do is concentrate on the good stuff that cannabis does.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, so what are some benefits? I will go first.
Okay. Go for it.
I am a veteran. I also have PTSD, and I've had some traumatic brain injuries, and weed has always been there medicinally for me. But also, I like to get high, and I think some people just don't like to say that out loud enough.
I love getting high.
And it's
get high every
okay.
day.
We can get high, and that's good.
I was high earlier.
Yeah, I wish I was high right now. I forgot to take my gummy before I left.
Depending on who's behind the mic, I tend to wish I was.
Well, and you know what I think about is, though, like, animals do drugs. Like, people act like drugs are like, oh my God. Your cat does drugs. Monkeys make their own drugs. Like, geese get drunk on fermented fruit. Like,
well, the thing that we forget that drugs were utilized for a pharmacological way of living, so that our inhibitions and everything that makes us and our humanness is able to be released, so that we could tap into who it is that we really are and our highest selves. And unfortunately, through manipulation and propaganda and just oppression, we have taken those avenues of those pharmacological medicinal benefits and have repurposed them into abusive things, because we needed to escape and get away and to tap out of all of the bullshit that we've had to deal with in society that holds us down in our minds and our bodies, and how it is that we move and walk through life. And once we get back to that positive propaganda on how to use substances healthily, ultimately is what we're talking about, how indigenous cultures used to utilize them from the beginning, then we can actually start to heal a people. But because we're in a world health epidemic in our psyches and in our spaces of existence, we have the powers that be that stop that. Because it's more money in making sure that people are sick and are in fear than there is making sure that you're happy and
thank you for mentioning indigenous peoples too, because here in the United States, our own indigenous people were very savvy to that. And one of my favorite things about indigenous people right now in this moment is the fact that there are people that are actually going in their faces and telling them to go back to where they came from, and I'm like, no, they were here before you. It's like, but they have a whole culture around.
Well, and some of the psychoactive, the psychedelics, and like mushrooms and stuff, like those. I mean, there's so much research out there now about like people who can use mushrooms, like microdosing, even great for depression. But like they'll go back a year later, and people will be like, "This was the most spiritual, meaningful moment of my life," and like. We see this over and over again in these studies with psychedelics, mushrooms, LSD, and like
when you use it appropriately, because there is a way that you can just go full in and just take 3 grams, and you're like high as hell.
That's a heroic dose.
And especially for your first dose.
That's what Jenna was always calling it. She's like, I took a heroic dose. I took a micro dose.
No, but seriously, I mean, because right, exactly. But some people need to actually go through the training and the understanding of how it is to utilize the medicines that are there for you in a healthy way, so you can have the best experience.
Right.
Yeah,
it just grows out of the earth like that.
I've done mushrooms twice. I'm good on that. I had an amazing experience. I am so grateful I did it, but I get very overwhelmed very easily, and sometimes I feel like I'm tripping when I'm smoking weed. So that's plenty for me. But also, I'm a very sensitive person. I realized after cutting out sugars that sugar was making me a crazy person. I seriously was like bipolar, and I'd never been given that thing before, but I felt like up and down, and I would cry all the time, blink of a hat. Like my relationships were not what they could have been because of sugar.
And that makes sense because it affects your hormones, your endocrine system, like everything.
And the other thing about weed too is the fact that there are way too many stories about people who have some of their most creative points in their life while
letting their inhibitions down. So
yes.
Letting the drugs do what they were intended
music,
to do.
Performing arts,
and that's very
visual
social.
arts. You know, you hear a lot of way too many stories about how they've done some of their best. People have done some of their best work in the arts.
Yeah.
You know,
other things about cannabis that are amazing. Growing it, if you've never grown it before, if you've never grown a plant in general, like that's an experience to just watch something.
Is it legal
grow.
to grow?
If you have a medical card, you can grow legally up to 5 plants.
What if you bought something recreationally, found seeds in it, and then grew that?
There you go, no girl.
That depends on how you want to ride the line.
Honestly, one of our
I was
demands,
speaking hypothetically, of
one
course.
of our demands is actually that's BS. You shouldn't need a medical card to be able to grow a friggin' plant.
Oh
yeah.
Oh,
Agreed.
If anyone has demands and would like to let us know, if anyone feels very strongly about specific laws that are in place or laws that should be in place, which I don't think there should be, but let us know, because we really want everyone's opinion on this, because these demands are going to be for the whole community.
Okay, funny story. I'm a big DIY HGTV Discovery Channel geek. Okay, so have you ever heard of the show Flip or Flop?
Yes.
Okay, there was one episode where Tarek and his then wife bought this house sight unseen, and they're going through the house, and they're noticing that the house is bigger than it looks on the inside. So they go outside, and there's like another house built on to the side. So they go in, and it's wall to wall plants.
Beautiful.
Wall to wall.
Nice.
With the lights,
I love it.
with the sprinkler
I
system.
bet the air quality was immaculate.
And he went over to his neighbor, and he's like, did you know that this was here? Because, when you're flipping and trying to sell a house to a family, that might not be one of the things.
Unless you do.
They had a
Does it
harvest
come
going
with the
while
plant?
they were trying to decide if they were flipping the house or not.
come
They
with the
bought
plants?
they bought it sight unseen.
Right.
I would have
so
been
they already
so
bought
happy.
They'd already bought
You
it.
feel me?
They
I
already
would've like,
bought
it's all
it.
mine.
So
Yeah, I would have been like, this is the best purchase I have ever made blind.
They're like outside. They like, do you smell that? Because there were
That's
so
the
I
many
would have wanted to
plants.
know who's coming for them plants. Okay? 'Cause nobody knows
Who
who's
left
leaving plants.
them? Why did they leave
They were
them?
at a fence,
That's
and
true.
they were like, "Do you smell that?" And they thought it was the neighbors. And then they went to this other side house, and that's how many plants there were growing. You could actually, it's like smelling grass.
Yes,
You have
like
smelling
smelling
grass,
grass.
different kind of grass. Yeah.
I would like-
But the evanescence.
Yeah.
I'd like to visit like a grow place. I don't know. It just seems like It would be
Well,
really.
you actually can,
Yeah.
because there's a CBD place called Shitiva, and they do.
Oh, I like that name.
Yeah, they're amazing. They actually were part of the event this morning. They support ECCSC. They also were applied for a license, a THC license, and have not received the license. So they kind of revamped, and they're doing just educational tours, and they're going to start like educational bingo for
That's
older
a great
folks.
idea.
I love that.
Yeah, I mean, they like Charles Wu, who is the owner, original owner. He, started learning about the community more when we were protesting, and then he actually started giving ownership of his company to Black women and men.
Yeah.
That were working with them. Like, he was giving them ownership, not just.
But seriously,
So like a co-op.
Yeah.
That's a really great idea, because not only, I mean, that's a very educational thing. It's like,
And it's needed, yeah.
yeah, it's
And
like
you
it's
can
like
go
going to an
the
arboretum
space and they're
or
growing, and then you can actually touch the plants and you can partake in it. So you're not only learning about THC, but you're also learning about CBD and then all of the other aspects.
And like all of the uses, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think that's something really
They have
neat
products that you
about.
can purchase in the end, like that are their full products.
Do they go over the different types of strains and things like that?
Yeah.
Too? Oh, wow.
I think I actually haven't toured.
Probably not in like hyper detail, but
There's
I'm
so
certain
many
they cover
strains.
terpenes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many strains.
But that's the thing, is that what we're talking about earlier, is that making sure that the positive propaganda that's out there, that's actually educating the community and really talking about the positives and how to utilize each strain and what terpenes do and how they affect your cannabinoid system and all those different things. Because I think then that will help alleviate some of the reasons why the corporate industry feels like they have to have so many restrictions. The restrictions are out of fear,
Yeah.
ultimately, at the end of the day.
Because they were written by policymakers that don't understand the plant.
Yeah.
And they're still afraid of the plant, and so they want to make it be scary still.
I think something that still drives me crazy about why there's people still in jail. We literally know that they knew they were lying. They said it, so we know that there's nothing to support any reason why people should be in jail at all.
Well, and it just goes to show you that AmeriKKK is really AmeriKKK, and how they feel about people that they've
It's horrifying.
harmed,
It's horrifying.
Okay, now I'm going to.
Oh yeah,
go
we're supposed to be in fluff area.
No, that's all right, because I'm enjoying this conversation.
Okay.
But this brings me to another point, going off of the cannabis subject, but going on to another subject. You know how the KKK has embraced the Union Jack, and they have their sort of flag.
Yeah,
and,
which was annoying as a Navy vet. Like,
and then Russia, the
Wait, are
hammer
you
and
both
sickle.
Navy vets?
Mhm.
yeah.
That's dope.
The hammer and sickle to us has been found to be negative. I am finding myself getting offended seeing people wearing the American flag.
I'm finding it a little triggering at this point too, and I'm ready for us to revamp the flag. Or like, honestly though, my first question was, why haven't the leftists tried to take the flag symbolism
Back.
as ours?
But when we're talking about the flag, ultimately what we're talking about is how it is that this whole society has created its understanding of how it is that it wants to move in its practices.
Mm-hmm.
So fuck the flag. We need to deal with the practices that are going on within the people that are making the laws and the changes, that are occurring. Because if we don't deal with the actual sickness, then we're still putting a Band-Aid on everything that's happening, and the leak is still occurring.
Because now in my head, I'm associating the American flag. First of all, they have laws about usage of the American flag and symbols and things like that, and they're totally ignored.
Oh yeah, and they don't care.
I mean, look at us. Look at our country.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, I've not respected the American flag for a long time. And let's be fair, a lot of other countries are way worse. However, I don't think we should base how we should be on worse places.
Yeah.
Well, I will never sport an American flag. I'm sorry.
It's growing up.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
It's growing up. I've always heard about the ugly French. The ugly French. We have become in America.
My stepmom was French, and she is dope as hell.
I know.
She's pretty.
I know.
She got that.
Well, when they say ugly, they don't mean on the outside. They meant on the inside.
Oh,
That's where the phrase came from.
Oh, I never heard that.
Yeah, the ugly French. That's where people always thought the French are always sticking their nose at us and being disrespectful to us and stuff like that. We have become them as a country.
Except for we have really bad manners and we leave trash everywhere we
America
go.
was founded on lies, on torture,
Yeah.
on pillage, on death, on murder, and on the backs of people that didn't want to be here. We can't deny who America is.
Yeah.
They literally sent their worst
I don't know
over
if
here.
you guys have, or the listeners have ever watched, there's a documentary called The Corporation, and it is like 10 hours long, but if you...
What is it on?
It's a Netflix, or you can watch it on, just Google it, it's called The Corporation. It literally breaks down how a corporation's psyche is on a mentality level, and they have broken it down to how a corporation is based on a psychopath's mentality and how it is that they function and organize and run. And so when you think about that, and you think about how this country, the government actually is a corporation, and how it is that it functions within itself as well, we really have to delve into how it is that we look at mental health in this country.
Yeah, we have a listener on here that's saying we also need to recognize how America has done what America has done to oppress other countries. Which absolutely.
And currently, we're in, what was it here we were talking about? We're still in like 80 countries around the world right now.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, we have bases in 80 countries. No country has a base here.
Yeah.
No country has a base.
I don't know how conspiracy you get in this space, but Rachel, I know you're into conspiracy.
I do enjoy a good conspiracy.
We enjoy a conspiracy now and then.
I enjoy a good one, and
all this genetically modified environmental, weather that we're
Well, my friend of mine's a biochemist, so I always check in about GMOs, and there's a lot of money to be made there now.
And now there's a strain of cannabis called GMO.
Yeah, it's really good. It's helpful really for sleep.
But is it propaganda that other GMO is okay? I don't know.
Well, you know what?
I also really like.
So from my scientist friend, from his standpoint, GMOs were originally invented by this guy who wanted to feed the world. He wanted to save the world and make sure everybody could have food. And
the corporation got it and messed it all up.
That's with everything, yeah.
And that's why, you have people like Bill Gates buying up all of this farmland, because there's a lot of money to be made in GMOs. Like, there was a really nice idea behind it. And for the most part, they're not as bad as a lot of people think. However, then when you get into like specific companies, that's, you're like, I don't want to blanket shame GMOs, because not all of them are bad. And, they came from this really great
place.
A really great place.
And then, I feel...
But
it gets corrupted like anything. Like anything
once you do corporation to it.
And like anything.
That's why we cannot let these corporations continue to take over the cannabis industry, because the cannabis plant, the flower, the beautiful thing that it is meant to be free. It's meant to be for all of us to grow however we want to grow. It's meant to be commerce for each other, to trade, like in Star Trek. I don't know if they talk about cannabis in Star Trek, but they do a lot of trading in Star Trek.
They probably traded cannabis.
I'm a Whovian, so.
Yeah, let the freaking people go that are in jail for it currently.
Yes, there should be clemency for any marijuana offender that is incarcerated currently. They should have immediate clemency.
See, I thought
in
that
Illinois
they had already
and
done
nationally.
that. Where does that stand?
No, they haven't.
And give them reparations. And I think I've seen some people that have. Sorry, you don't like the word reparations. Give them money. Give them monetary restitution for the time that they spent that they should not have been in there.
The amount of money. I've tried to apply for the Innocence Project like 3 times. Like, I would love to do something with them. Like, the amount of people in jail.
I have an idea.
Okay.
I have an idea. You ready for this?
Yeah.
You ready for this?
Yes, let's do
Okay.
this.
All the cops that are found guilty of crimes and take away their pensions and take that money from the pension that you took away from them and give it.
There would be a revolt.
I think that we should quit having the city pay for their mistakes and they can carry their own liability
Thank you.
insurance.
Yes.
We
They
wouldn't
carry
have
their own
that.
liability insurance for
We
things that
should
they
not-
are liable for.
We, the people who live here, should not have to pay.
I'm not paying for that
for
officer's
some-
time off who shot Adam Toledo. I'm not paying for
Yeah.
it. Like, get your own insurance.
And that's one of the things in regards to the cannabis space and where the money is going. Follow the money. You
Mhm.
know, the taxes that it was even created within Illinois all go back to the same organizations that continue to lock us up within the industry.
Yeah,
And
they
I think
actually
that
gave
is
cannabis
fucked
money
up.
to
Sorry.
police. No, I'm sorry, but I had to clarify that.
Yeah.
Because it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I wonder.
I was curious though. Can you maybe tell us like specifically where we are in getting people out of prison right now for marijuana crimes here in the state?
It costs money to do expungements, and they're not putting money into it. So you still have to pay to get your.
And there are a lot of
expunged.
expungement clinics that are going on, and good people that are putting them on.
Including-
Unfortunately, there's still waits that have to occur for people that, you know, it's not like.
So we have to wait
it's
for, like-
it's an administrative.
So they're
you know,
doing it one by one instead of just doing. There's no like
there's no
blanket.
mass blanket.
How can we
Wow.
get that?
Well, one of the things
Is-
that I am trying to institute for Illinois is a resolution so that it's adopted into the law that there's clemency for any marijuana offender. On like I said, in this state that has a large amount of people that are still incarcerated for cannabis charges, as well as on a national level. And when we're
Does it
speaking-
have a name? You said it's legislation.
it's still
Or-
it's still in the working, so I'll definitely let all the listeners know once that is ready to go, so that we can have your support
And here's-
in pushing that through.
Here's another thing that has to do with here and now as opposed to then when it comes to that, and that is the fact that they found that people that are in prison are more likely to be exposed to COVID and stuff like that.
Oh
Yeah.
God,
So
that
they
was so
actually
sad.
locked the prisons down so that then there were no more transfers
So-
and things like that as
so
well.
here's-
Well,
these
they should
people-
have been letting people go home because you're giving them death sentences.
Exactly.
when your offense is something that is minor.
Yes.
And you're holding people just for the shits and giggles of the bullshit that goes on within the system because the system is broken.
And the worst part is the propaganda around people who've been to prison, and like treated like they're no longer human. Like people will lose actual rights, and it's just.
I keep telling anyone who is into politics and has a voice that needs to be heard, please run for something. And they always, are like, girl, whatever.
I've gone back and forth on it, but this country's really ableist, so I don't imagine that people are going to be like, oh, that woman had brain damage, I'll vote for her. Like, I hit my head a few times, like in
Yeah,
Fighting
the,
for the
you're a
country.
vet.
yeah, in the Navy, I
Yeah.
literally, I had an accident and I landed on my chin and crushed some teeth and gave me a TBI because like they roll you over and your hands pop up like this. That's like number one sign that somebody just had a traumatic brain injury.
Mm-hmm.
So if you see that in football or whatever, they roll somebody over and their hands are just like, that's what that is.
I just feel like we need more. If we're going to continue to go in the route that we're going with the country, which is the policy work, blah 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 blah. We need people in there that are wanting to do the right thing and that haven't been corrupted and that aren't going to take money from all of these corporations to push the lobbying agendas that they have. We need more of the people and less of politicians.
And we need more money around grassroots organizations that are out here that are creating avenues for positive change within these broken systems that are there.
And it helps if you know how to make a good mixed drink too.
Yeah.
You know who we're
will y'all
talking
be
about
doing?
here.
Will y'all be doing any fundraising events?
Fundraising and friend raising, absolutely.
Oh, fundraising. I like that word,
Yes,
fundraising.
yes.
Thank you.
Because
Cool.
you can't just take people's money. Not all money is good money. You know, you want to know whose money that you're taking to make sure that the values that are around what it is that you're doing and what you're trying to do match and align. That's the only way that we could continue to make sure that we're pushing the real agenda and the positive propaganda forward. You know, that's that alignment. Unfortunately, people do need to do their due diligence and how it is that they receive their money. And who it is that they receive it by, because sometimes some money comes with control.
I mean, like I always say, like there's both no ethical consumption in capitalism, but it doesn't mean that we can't find ways to be as ethically and ethical as we possibly
Well,
can.
and why not say there isn't currently, but there will be.
And there could be.
There
Well,
will be.
Well,
Not because you have
I
to
hate
make
capitalism.
It come into you have to make it happen with your words first. You know, like nothing will come to be unless it's spoken about out loud and
you break a couple of doors.
I've always wanted, I started wanting to do this when I was in art school. I wanted to make this art piece, this video performance piece of me kicking in doors just over and over again, like all over the place. I like drive around the country and stuff. And like, I just set it up and just like, boom.
That's
and
called have a street team.
I need one. I want to make this video still to this day. I've had this video I've wanted to make for like 6 years now. It's going to happen. And it's going to be, and I'm going to write the music to it. It's going to be awesome. And what's interesting is I decided I wanted to kick indoors, not kick outdoors, which I think is important to this video, to this project.
Oh, man. So, what next?
Yeah, y'all have a bunch of things this week, right?
We have a bunch of things going on, not
starting
only
on the 20th
with just the foundation and with some actions that we'll be doing around the state in conjunction with other organizations that we have strategic alignments with and support. So if you're paying attention, if you're listening, and if you're a viewer, we definitely need your voices and your bodies. Please follow True Social Equity and Cannabis on IG, Facebook. Please follow Social Equity Empowerment Network on Facebook, on IG. Please follow Ex-Cons for Community and Social Change, and allow your voices to be heard. In addition to that, True Social Equity and Cannabis also is going to be doing a play in 2022 in regards to the cannabis industry and people that have been incarcerated and who are still incarcerated, to make sure that their voices are heard
Yeah, definitely.
on a larger scale and in a creative way. In addition to that, Social Equity Empowerment Network, which is also another organization that I am a co-founder of. We do a lot of policy advocacy, and we are a cannabis trade association. We're going to be, we're rolling out in other states as well with different chapters. So please follow that. There will be a lot of educational information that will be coming out in that regard as well. And there's a lot of different actions that are going around. Get involved, man. Let your voices be heard. Don't be afraid to be seen and be heard, because that's what it takes. We are at a state of war, all of us, not just one group of us, but there are specific groups of us that have been more oppressed, that we need allies to support the movements that we have going on, so that we can all have the society and the economy and the space that we really want our children to grow up in. I really fear for our kids growing up. They're not going to really know what it's like to relate to themselves and to each other within the social space, and with all this epidemic that we're in. Everything is so separated, and we really do have to get back to the values of what it means to connect to one another. We are in this space together, all of us.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that, like how many the community I grew up in is just like a keep an arm distance length between everybody. It wasn't very, just in a very affectionate. People are nice and friendly and stuff, but I feel like the environments where I go and I find people are actually getting close and being affectionate, and those are just like more positive experiences. And if you don't get that, that affects who you are growing in everything.
1000%.
Like, not like seeing people, like, I don't know, go together and be kind and hugging, like that just makes you feel good even if you didn't do it.
We live in such a world that can be smoke and mirrors because of the fakeness that has
Oh God, Midwest niceness.
This social media space, and I think if we all just have to be a little bit more patient and kind with each other, and remember to hold special places of care and comfort and empathy at the end of the day, and also don't be afraid to be your truest self. When you see something, when you hear somebody saying some bullshit, call them out on this shit.
Yes.
You know, we are in a time where we need to have accountability, because otherwise the values and who it is within our humanness is going to also take a back seat to what it is that it means to be a active person in your society.
Yeah.
Real quick, we've got like
Sorry for that
Or-
tangent.
No, we've got
That's
like
what you're here
10
for.
minutes left, but I just want to ask you two. Would you be up to coming back in a couple months and giving us another update?
For sure.
Oh, I'd love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love that. So that's
Yeah.
out of the way. I just wanted to make
And-
sure that I didn't forget
yeah,
because,
and then-
ADHD. You know.
Yeah, and of course keep us updated on any policy and things that we can promote.
Yeah, talk about on here. yeah.
And then I have a theater company too, so yeah. I was going to say, so I started, when COVID first started, I was like, okay, well, I'll learn philosophy this year. And I was studying Hannah Arendt, who was talking about, like, how did we get to World War II? How did that happen? And what she was saying is, our political and ideology are part of our personalities. And when you split that off and don't look within yourself and find, like, do I feel this is right? Is this good? When you give it away to a team, then, like, it's a whole part of your personality. And then you just become a team player and you have no actual moral code. And I feel like, outside of Nazi Germany, it's, like, so clear to see this group of people. They don't even think in morals anymore. They think only in team. And most of them, like, you have them interviews and you ask them about things for themselves personally, and just watch, you'll start seeing it, and they will talk about their group. They quit talking about, like, they themselves, what they want, and they'll say, we want this. And it's just really kind of interesting, and I feel like it was relevant to something you said, and I don't remember how to tie it back to that.
Really interesting.
But yeah, like, this whole idea, if you're not taking that time to reflect in your own personal values, you could be used for anybody's
Your
valuables.
belief system. And belief really is just the thing that you tell yourself over and over again. So tell yourself something different.
Yeah.
Be willing to see the world through a different lens, through different eyes. And who knows, maybe you'll end up somebody different in a positive way.
Well, hopefully we're always a little different every day.
There it is.
Well, I think as like theater people, we're kind of more empathetic than potentially other people, which makes it easier.
Yeah.
But I think other people could hear that, like your circumstances are not necessarily the circumstances, and like being able to understand other people's perspectives is really important.
Yeah. I mean, and you have to like physically moving to different perspectives is helpful to even see them. Just go stand in a different part of town you've been in, and you will get an entire different perspective if you just focus on that.
I've got some breaking news here.
Oh, breaking news.
Yeah. January 6th, Trump was supposed to have his little speech for January. He canceled it. Yeah. He canceled it. Probably because he wanted to attend Melania's Everything Must Go sale. I don't know if you heard that. She's selling stuff now.
Oh,
she's,
man.
She's selling the hat that she
That's
wore
not
when
her
she got-
vagina.
I will say, though, I thought,
Sorry, I had to say it.
I don't know if
Are
y'all...
they still together?
Wouldn't be the first
mean-
time.
Are they still together? Or
I don't know.
I
But
have
I
my
know he tried to get
suspicions.
on
She's a
TikTok,
hostage.
and that didn't work out.
Yeah, I have my suspicions. As I said, she's
She's a clone.
yeah. She first of all, okay. She's selling stuff off. She's talking about selling an IFT. What is that? That's what it is. IFT.
Or
NFT?
NFT?
NFT. Yeah. She's selling an NFT, and then she's talking about Bitcoin. And I'm assuming going in this route, the next thing she'll be doing is constructing a super collider in her basement. Because, trust me, if it's an NFT, if it's Bitcoin, that's not her saying this stuff.
Yeah, she's not particularly known
Unless
to be
she's
a
been
savvy.
paying attention and listening in the room.
Yeah, you know what? She could have been, though. Like, sometimes getting into the
She was
room.
smart.
I don't think she's stupid.
But I think she's street smart. But here's the thing about Melania.
Street smart? I don't know about
Yeah.
that.
Here's the thing
Whose
about
streets
Melania.
is we talking about?
Yeah.
Blueberry
Smart,
Hill.
Smart, I don't know. So anyway, no, my thing about Melania is all this stuff that Trump and her have been saying about Obama all these years. I want to see the application for her Einstein visa. I want to see it. I really do. I mean, she modeled.
Haven't they shown it?
No.
There's been information about it. I don't remember. We'll have to look that up and
It's
clarify
like his
that.
taxes. Nobody's seen them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. By the way, since you two are new, I grew up in New Jersey, and I can honestly,
East Coast.
I can honestly say
to what Jersey's doing.
I can honestly say that growing up, I knew how bad of a person Donald Trump was. I remember I was there for the Taj Mahal bankruptcy. I was there. I remember watching on TV the Senate investigating the mafia and the New York mob, and them talking about how they would signal Trump would signal them if he needed any work to be done for him.
Wow.
He literally functions like the mafia.
Which is why I keep saying, calm down, people. This is a RICO. This is more like a RICO investigation, not a.
Do you remember when people were saying that if he became president, that he would legalize cannabis?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was
Why does everyone
pro-gay.
say that?
He
Why
was
does
pro-gay.
I know, that was so
Because
confusing
the black
too.
vote is large.
Yeah.
So
That's
many
why.
fakers.
That's why.
So many freaking fakers.
Yeah.
Well, we knew Biden wasn't going to do it.
Well, yeah, we did know that.
That wasn't a surprise.
Yeah.
Well, before we do wrap up, I do want to go ahead and plug myself again.
Sure.
I am Rachel Bloomstrom, and this is how, like, my dad came up with a long time ago how to remember to say my last name. It's bloom like a flower, strum like a guitar.
Oh.
Yes, and I got, like, flower tattoos, and I play guitar, so it's really easy.
Oh my God, Rachel. Oh my God.
Yeah, and I am the founder and co-artistic director of the Quarantine Queens Theater Company. We do have some pieces coming up this month. Be sure to check out 12th Night, which is going to be directed by Sydney Hansen. Next month, we will be doing a Black History Month festival, which we're super excited about. And then the following month is when we will have our large Henry VIII play. So definitely check that out. That one's going to be a bigger circumstance. You know, we just almost finished casting. I'm very excited. It's a multi-country cast again. So,
That's
those.
dope how you do that, by the way.
Yeah,
Shout out
thanks.
to your theater company, because y'all really transitioned into the COVID performance very well. And
Yeah,
have been
thanks.
on your, can I say shit?
Yeah.
On your shit, and not everyone has been able to do that. And it's really hard. I know, because I run a theater company as well. It's really hard to run a company.
Well, we actually just started during COVID. So we designed our whole theater company we're an online international all women plus theater company. So it's all virtual, but right now adding in elements of filming. And I have this big desire to do a 2-location play. Like, we have a lot of people in London. We have a lot of people in Houston.
Wow.
So have one cast maybe perform there and then one here, and then do the virtual crossover, because, you know, a lot of times you have like 2 main
Chicago Wednesday
locations.
sort of thing.
Yeah, so, but then if they need to interact with each other, we'll just do that virtually. And I'm going to make it happen.
That's
It's
dope.
going to happen.
That's dope.
And I forgot we're also from Houston.
Yes, we're also from Houston, yes.
Okay, and Vitoria, anything else?
Check us out, y'all.
Vitoria Herring, everyone.
Anna Rose, anything else?
Yeah, just for my other fellow lighter skinned people. Like, we really need to start speaking out more about injustices, because we need to support our brothers and sisters that are struggling, and ultimately, you know, all of us are struggling, and if we can just come together as human beings and realize that if we can lift each other up and use the freeing of this plant to do that, then we can have potential peace on earth.
Yeah. I mean, that's always, you know, like, especially when you're younger and smoking, we're like, that's how you unite the world.
Yeah.
Smoke weed
I
together.
still
Peace
believe
pipe.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, again. There we go.
Yeah.
So that's it for the show, everybody. Oh, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having us.
And as I
Yeah.
said, I want you to come back in a couple months, give us updates and stuff like that, okay?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, this is
Peace
News
and
What
love, y'all.
News for January
Wear a
4th.
mask.
I'm your host, Aaron Marshall, and thanks for listening, and take care, Chicago.
Build your
Good
new
night,
ones.
everybody.
Peace and love.
Yay.
Uh,
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. All right. See y'all later. Thanks for sticking around and for your participation.
Yes.